So far, what all we have discussed is my voice is audible clearly, right? Please, can anyone confirm?
Yeah, it is audible.
Yes. So far, what all we have discussed is what is code coverage, what is functional coverage, and why do we have code coverage? Why the code coverage plays a good role in the ASIC verification functional coverage aspects, and what is the use of functional coverage, and what are the different types of code coverage are there? Those things we have gone through, and. Okay. And what else we have gone through is, and we have saw some snippets of the code coverage report, how it looks. And even for the functional coverage report snippet, we have saw like how it looks and how the this result is calculated, this percentage at the tool side, how it is, the process is done, all that we saw, right? And then a brief overview of assertions, means like intro of assertions we saw, and then the different types of code coverage, and then we saw like what is a functional coverage and its significance, and what is a directed verification technique, and what is constraint random verification technique, and how all these are related to the functional coverage. All this we saw, and then in functional coverage, in any coverage model, what all we have, means what is a cover group, what are the cover points, all these things we saw, right? And then, what are the industry guidelines for functional coverage? And what is a verification plan? All this in an overview we have gone through. Today we will see different types of functional coverage. Just a minute. People are waiting. I'm not able to see someone in the waiting room. He's telling that. Okay, and we have seen like what are the industry guidelines for the functional coverage. All this we saw, right? And what else we have? These are the industry specific guidelines. And then we have stopped here basically the coverage bins. So for today we will go through from the coverage bins. Before that, as Kiran requested, he's new, right? And you all have attended the session. So help me out to explain him, okay? So can anyone say what is the difference between code coverage and functional coverage? Yes, Harsh, you can tell. Go ahead. Hello. Any one of you can tell just by unmuting yourself.
Code coverage is like checking every part of the design, whether it is executed or covered in our during our simulation.
Right? Yes.
Uh, Whereas functional coverage is like checking against our spec or requirement whether the given function is verified in our code.
Correct. Correct. Exactly right. Thank you, Supriya. And then what are the different types of code coverage we have? Kiran, are you aware of all this? Like, what are the different types of code coverage? All this, are you aware of?
Little bit, man. Not that much.
Okay. Okay, for you, what I will do is let me quickly go through the slides. So this and all, these are the different frequently asked questions actually. So some we have covered, some you can gather through the recordings, but some important things I will cover for you. like what are the different types of code coverage. So as Supriya mentioned, she has mentioned in very short, and it's a precise one. That is, code coverage means we are trying to exercise the design line by line. How many lines are covered in the code coverage is basically how well our design is exercised. Based on that, we will get the code coverage report. Okay.
Yes.
And in that, the code coverage is also used to track the progress of our verification. Like by so means by seeing the code coverage report, we can get to know that okay how much our design has exercised well. So for that we have some aspects like there are different types. That is. Like this, you can see the green color is red. Means this part of the code is executed. Means we are given a proper stimulus in order to execute this part of the design. And here we are missing something. So these things we have to figure out, and we have to improve our test bench in order to get the more code coverage. Okay. And then we will see like in functional coverage means as she explained that we are trying to check the functional coverage over the spec. Means based on our requirements, how many features are covered, all this our test bench is covering all the features or not, all this we can get through the functional coverage report. Okay, and this is how it looks, the functional coverage snippet, like means what are the bins are covered. So like about bins and all I will discuss further. We haven't discussed it. So assertions, this is just an intro part. We will cover in detail
Ma'am,
further. Yes.
ma'am, but if code coverage is good, but function coverage is not good, and vice versa, function coverage is good and code coverage is not good,
Yeah.
and and third case is both are good, then like what are the next steps in three cases?
Let's see. We will discuss about that, the functional coverage, code coverage. Actually, I today in today's session, I even included the question for the code coverage and functional coverage. So we will go through that. Before that, how to execute the code coverage, how to write a coverage model for the functional coverage, all this we should be aware of, right? So that's why let us go through that first. Okay. And then the different types of code coverage I have explained in yesterday's session. I will share you the recording, because if I keep on explaining those things, we will miss today's session and content, right? That's why. If still you are unable to figure out anything, Kiran, you can ping me and I will let you know. Okay, I'll clear your doubts.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
So in functional coverage, so far you guys have any doubts? Or can I start with today's session?
Hello.
Yes, Abhishek.
Ma'am, please explain once what is the difference between that implicit bin and explicit bin.
What is the difference between
Implicit bin and explicit bin.
implicit bin and explicit bin? Yeah, sure. I will. Okay. So there are no further participants, right, in the waiting room. Fine. Nikesh has not joined yet. He is asking me to join, allow into the room. Everyone else has got right. Fine. So basically, we have stopped near the coverage bins, right? So in functional coverage, we have a coverage model. In order to create a coverage model, we have a coverage model, something like cover group. Inside a cover group, we have cover points, right? So these bins are usually used to collect the coverage information. So what kind of bins we have? So all this we will go through today. So the bins can be explicit also and implicit also. If we are not mentioning anything and we are just writing the cover point, then it is called as implicit bins. If I am writing some bins along with the cover point, those bins are called explicit bins. So okay, then
And this is for function coverage or code coverage, this bins
functional
or cover.
coverage. All the bins concept comes in the functional coverage. Code coverage, we don't write any bins. We just enable the code coverage. The simulator will do the code, give the code coverage analysis for us. Based on the report, we have to go and improve our stimulus in order to cover the design. Means what are the holes which we observe that we need to. But with respect to functional coverage, we have the authority to write the bins everything. Okay, so here the implicit bins everything comes under the functional coverage. So the code coverage explanation is all done so far. So from today we will focus on the functional coverage. Okay.
So these bins are for both input and output both, not only input, right?
Yeah, it could be anything. In design, whatever parameters are there, in your verification environment, whatever the parameters are there, whatever codes are there, those things we are trying to do this through implicit bins and explicit bins and whatever bins we have. Okay. So in implicit bins, what we are trying to see is we are just writing a cover point. If you do not specify any bins, that means implicit bins. And if it is an implicit bins, it means that, for example, we have the variable of 3 down to 0, for suppose. So 3 down to 0 means how many combination, 2 down to 0, for suppose. Let me take a small number so everyone will understand. 2 down to 0 means
16
3
possible.
bit, right? So 7 possibilities you will have, 8 possibilities you will have. So 0 to 8, right? So 0 to 7. So all the 7 possibilities will be given by the implicit bins. But if you want to control those bins as some, you want to segregate those bins to some 2 or 3 bins. So that you can do it by auto bin max parameter. By giving the auto bin max parameter, you can specify you want only 2 bins or 3 bins. Based on that, it will segregate the bins, all the 7 bins into some 2 bins. So I have designed a practical code to explain you all. We will see further. First, we will see the theory part, and then we will go to the practical part. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, Abhishek. Now
Small doubt, ma'am.
are you implicit and explicit?
Yes, ma'am. Like I have doubt. Like how many bins like implicit bins will create automatically? Like, is there any limit?
Upon the width, for example, the variable width is of 3 down to 0. So, what are the number of combinations it can have? It means
16.
right? It means 16 combinations. So 0 to
Yes.
15. So it means 16 bins will get created for that.
Okay. So suppose if you are having 8-bit data like 7 down to 0, so how many bins will be created, ma'am?
To cover that many combinations, bins will get created.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So what is the default value for creating the implicit bins? Like, is there any specific limit?
Variable, right? For example, you are doing, as you mentioned, 7 down to 0. So then
Yes.
the maximum combination of bits will be there, right? So those many bins will get created. So it's your wish, you want to cover all the bins or not. Based on your requirement, you will see whether you want to use implicit bins or explicit bins. If explicit bins are basically like implicit means you don't have any control. You just declare the variable and it will create all the number of bins. In explicit bins, you can have the control. Means if you are interested only for suppose third, fourth, and fifth bin, rest all it's not your area of interest. In that case, explicitly you can give that. For example, 3 down to 0 variable is address. The address bins address is equal to 0, 3, and 5. Through that, only those 3 bins will get hit. It means that for that particular variable, the coverage is 100%. So likewise, you can decide. So that is the main difference between implicit and explicit bins. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now if you see, here explicit bins have given like we can explicitly create bins. Just now we have gone through, right? So when we exactly use the explicit bins means when you have some exact values. Suppose I know for this design I need to cover the standard speed for sure. I2C has to run in its standard speed. I know it. So I need not randomize the bus speed and check for all the things, right? So then I will write like this bus speed bin. Sorry. Okay. The bus speed bin is equal to standard, like that I will mention. With that, it means that I have explicitly created a bin for the standard speed. likewise. Okay. So, and we can even provide the naming conventions for bins. It's always recommended to provide the naming conventions for bins because it will be easy for us in the debugging process. So you can create one separate bin, or it can be like, for example, you want to cover bin as 1 and you want to cover the bin as 3 to 5. So you need not write 3, 4, 5 like this. You can directly write like 3 down to 5. You can give a range like this. Even this will work. That is what we are mentioning. Like either you can give a separate bin or you can write a single bin for all the values in the range list. So this is how it is. Okay. So and then let's see the other bins. Okay. The one more thing is ignore bins. But suppose you have some requirement where suppose fast read in I2C itself, we have something like I2C, we have something like 3 different speed for suppose. One is standard, one is fast, one is fast speed plus. Ranjit, please mute yourself. So we have 3 different speeds, but in my project, fast speed plus we are not exercising. It is out of our requirement. In that case, what you can do, you can declare the bins and you can mention the ignore bin. In ignore bin, I can mention like this one, the fast speed plus. So in that case, what it will do, even though it is covered, standard and fast is covered, it will give us 100% coverage because fast speed plus is out of our requirement. So that is not my area of interest and I don't want to cover it. In the same way, that's why I'm putting that in ignore bin so that it will exclude from the coverage calculation. So that's what is there. All the values of the transition associated with the ignore bins are excluded from coverage. Transition, why they are telling is there is one more scenario. For example, there is a scenario I am giving like it should change from the bus speed rate. It should change from 300 to 400 I have given for suppose. And there is another case where I want to check like 300 to 500. But 300 to 500 is not my requirement because 500 will fall under fast speed plus for suppose. In that case, this is not my requirement, right? Then we can associate this particular bin with ignore bin. You have to declare this bin like ignore bins. In that way, you can exclude this coverage calculation and achieve the 100% coverage. So that's how it is, okay? So there,
Then
yeah.
I have one doubt regarding
Yes.
bins. If I can take the implicit bins,
Yes.
for example, I will take the range of 2 down to 0 means 3 bits, 2 power 8, 8 combinations are came.
Yes.
For example, implicit bins I can segregate means 8 divided by 4 means 4 bins are created. If, for example, if I use ignore bin in that implicit bins, what is the main difference between the explicit bin and implicit bin?
Kiran, I will show you the implicit bins code also, everything. Then later also still.
No, ma'am. Actually, no. My doubt is actually explicit bin is user defined as per user requirement, right? So, which bin is I have to create? It's completely based upon user.
Yes.
So, in that place, I can use implicit along with ignore. Is there any possible?
That you can do that.
Which is the explicit.
See, it's very simple. Don't get confused. See, implicit means you will not define anything. Okay. And you will give just the cover point. So implicit bins will be generated by the tool itself at the backend and it will provide you the report. Okay. And in explicit bins means you are trying to give by yourself, means you know some things you want to cover for sure. So those things you will mention explicitly by giving like these things has to be covered through the explicit bins. Now your doubt is just writing implicit and then you want to write ignore bin for that. Means and this particular value you would want to ignore it. You can do that.
Yeah.
That you have to
Yeah,
declare
yeah,
an ignore bin. In writing an ignore bin will help you out to exclude that particular variable to calculate the coverage. Okay. So
yeah. So, okay, ma'am. So, what is the main difference between these two, implicit and this one, this
ignore.
scenario? Yeah, yeah.
See, how do I explain? In industry, for example, I have explained you, but still I'm letting you once again. Means in ignore bins, suppose there is first you have given implicit bin for suppose address. Address is of 3 down to 0, and you have given that implicit bin, and you have generated the coverage report. Then if you see the coverage report, you found out that there are some holes. Means it is not covering all the things. Means the bins will be generated by the tool, but the value which is getting into that bin, it's depending upon your stimulus, what you provide for the design. For suppose, that's why I'm telling, if I show it all this in your code, no, it will be more understandable to you. So that's why just hold on. I will definitely answer your question and then only I'll close the session. Right? I'll show you in the code, it will be more understandable. Okay, because others might
Hold out, ma'am.
do that. Yeah.
Ma'am, how we can like include a particular variable inside the ignore bins? Like we have to give the bin name or what? Like
Yeah, there is a syntax for all these bins. Okay, just first understand the functionality, what bins will do what, and then we will each and every bins we will write a code and we will understand each of the thing,
Okay.
each of the things. So with that, your syntax will be cleared and also the doubts will be cleared in a practical way. Okay, so for now, just understand what
Yes.
bins do what. Okay, because in the
like ma'am, in explicit bins we are giving ma'am, in explicit bins we are giving our own name like for a particular variable, but in implicit bins the tool will be providing the name. So how we can come to know like what is the name for a particular value for a particular variable? If you want to like include the implicit bins in ignore bins, we don't know the variable name. So how can we like
the code first because the let us start with the code and then we'll go for the next bits. Through that, your doubts will be cleared. Fine. See now, for suppose. Okay. So here, if you can see, as I mentioned, right, in cover group can be enclosed in inside module, inside an interface, or inside a class, anywhere in a program or any program block, anywhere you can put. So I will try to cover all the things also, but in this snippet, what I am trying to do is I am enclosing the cover group within a module. Okay, inside module, we have declared one variable called address, which is of 2 down to 0. Means how many combinations can occur if it is 2 down to 0?
8.
8 combinations, right? Fine. And then we are giving cover group. We are declaring the cover group and the cover group name is CG. Okay. Then this option per instance equals 1. For right now, just ignore it. I will explain you about this further. Okay. This is a little advanced concept. We will discuss about it further. So now let us only focus on implicit bins and cover group and cover points, whatever we have covered so far. Okay. So and then I have declared cover point address. So when I have written cover point address, it means I am writing a cover point for this particular variable. Fine. So now what did I say yesterday? Once after declaring the cover group, we need to create that cover group. So like how we do it for class in the same way. So CG and then we are taking an instance name for that. CG and COV means this is the cover group instance name that we are creating it. Okay. And then for address, now we don't have any design, right? here. So for this, we need to get some value. Usually in any industry or any big projects, we will be having the design and we will be providing the stimulus to that. So that way, our signals in the test, these signals will get the values. But here we don't have as such. So I need to give it in order to demonstrate you how implicit bins work. So that's why what I have done is I have giving some random value to the address. Okay. And then what I'm doing after creating the cover group, I said we need to sample it, right? So I will sample this. If you don't call this function, your cover group, your coverage model will not work. So this is very
Is
important.
this an inbuilt method, ma'am? Sample method?
Sample?
Is this an inbuilt method which we are calling?
Editing method of a coverage. Coverage model, we have built-in method or system verilog built-in method. So you can just use directly coverage.sample. Okay. And then I'm doing the display in order to check the output side. Okay. So now let me do this and then we will observe how the implicit bins are there, everything. Fine.
Ma'am. Hello.
See, if we see here. So this is my coverage report which I have got. Okay. So now let me check how many things are getting covered and all. Okay, fine. So see, as I mentioned, the address is 2 down to 0. So I will get 8 bits, 8 bins getting generated, right? So all these are there. So my address is randomized now. So after address is randomized, based on the randomization value, it is giving my coverage report. Now I am able to see that bin auto of 0 is not covered. Means it is uncovered, means it is giving 0. If it is covered, means it is giving covered. So my coverage percentage here it is goal, means what is the maximum percentage we need to have. That should be 100%. These are the hits, means how many bins are getting covered here. Okay. So here I can see that bin 0 is not getting covered. Bin 2 is not getting covered. Bin 6, bin 7. All these are not getting covered. Right. So this is how the implicit bin works. Did I mention anything here? Nothing I have mentioned. I have just written the cover point and address, and so the tool itself generated everything. So this is called implicit bins, basically. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
is there any mandatory to write the cover point name?
If you don't write cover point name, how will it work? For what you are writing the cover point?
In this code, I didn't even.
Sorry.
Yeah, PowerPoint address, just only you are giving PowerPoint address. Before that, we are providing any user-defined name.
Like that means, for example, you can write some label like this. Okay, C1 dot like this. So with this, you can give the name. If you
that one is mandatory or not?
No, it's not mandatory, but it is recommended to do that way so that while debugging it will be.
Without this, how it will execute this code, ma'am?
See, you have a name Kiran, right? So if we have a name, it is easy for me to check like you are the one who is talking. That's how it is. If you are not giving it and you are writing, you are saving your name with some other, just like yes or X, even then you will be joined in a meeting. But still, it will be tough for me to debug. Means if it is easy for me to check like Kiran name, but if you write X or something, it's tough for me. Where is it? Here it is only one cover point, but for us we will have number of cover points. So at that point it will be useful. Okay.
Yeah, my main doubt is it mandatory or not?
I have already told you, Kiran, that it is not mandatory, and I have explained you with an example. Still, you are asking the same question.
Okay.
It will be meaningless.
Ma'am, ma'am, can you increase the bit size here? Like it here it's 3 bit. Can you increase it to 16? Once I want to see
Address.
how many auto bins it will create. Yes, can you increase it to 16 bit?
How much shall I do?
15 down to 0. 15
Okay.
down to 0. Yes.
Yes. Kiran, can you please mute yourself? Because when someone else is talking, it might be disturbing. See, you can see so many number of pins.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Tejas,
Ma'am,
right?
Ma'am, can we disable cover group, ma'am?
Yeah, we can.
Ma'am, any example if possible?
If you want to disable the cover group entirely, you don't want to see the coverage. That depends on
Like in task we have the when we can disable a task. So similarly we can disable a cover group. We
Yeah,
have
see, it's not about the cover group or something. You can directly, if you don't want to see some particular cover groups, we can disable it. Those all are advanced concepts of built-in functions and all. So we will discuss further, okay? Because if I tell everything here, it will be confusing. If any doubts you have related to this code, let me know. Like how we
ma'am,
have.
one more final question, ma'am.
Yeah.
In VIPs, ma'am, where do we use this cover group? In which class we will write this cover groups?
Sorry?
In VIPs, ma'am, like in test benches, where in UVM test benches and all, where do we write this cover group, ma'am?
See, you can have the it depends on your project. In some projects, we have some separate coverage model, and in ENV itself or somewhere, we can create one coverage class which is extend. If it is in UVM, you can extend it from UVM subscriber also. There are different ways to do it. Okay. But if you know the syntax and all, then based on your project guidelines, you can write where they ask you to prepare the coverage model. Okay, it all depends on your project specific.
Is that, ma'am?
Yes.
Both assistance and coverage are right in UVM subscribers only.
Sorry?
Both assistance and coverage are only right in UVM subscriber.
No. The coverage file you can extend from UVM subscriber. Assertions, you can write it in the top module level or anywhere. Assertions will not be extended.
What I heard from my
So assertions we write basically in a separate module, and that assertions are then binded with the design. So it's a different thing.
Yes. And Sudha,
Ma'am, I have one doubt. Yeah. I don't know exactly like how to convey. I just tell you like what's in my mind. So usually, so coverage will be. We will check the coverage for the stimulus which we are giving.
Okay.
Right, for the property.
Basically, see, coverage means the main intention of a verification engineer is to cover to exercise the design, right? So you are writing some test bench to test your design. Okay, how well you have tested your design, that metrics to track that progress, we have two metrics. One is code coverage metric and so functional coverage metric, right? Understood? So we are trying to track the progress of the design. So if your design is tested and we got to know some results and you want to improve that you will provide through the stimulus. In the test bench, you have to make some changes. If it is suppose code coverage, if it is functional coverage, there could be some features you wouldn't have covered. So you have to write one more test case. There could be different scenarios. Okay. From the functional coverage, if it is. Did I answer your question or didn't I?
Ma'am, can you explain code once again?
Yeah.
You answered it, but I'm unable to.
Okay, that's okay, Sudha. You can ask me once again what exactly I can explain you.
So like in here in output, here we can see like few are like 1 1, it is covered 0 1 0. So
Yes.
all these are that 16-bit whatever we will have. So all those are those stimulus 0 1 1 1 0.
Yeah. So see here, if we see this is address of 15 down to 0, and you are randomizing this address. So I am randomizing this address 5 times. So address would have got some 5 values basically, right?
Yeah.
So, got it. So address would have got some 5 values. So it means the address would have only come covered 5 times for this entire simulation. Okay. So rest all it is not getting any value. So it is not covered. So only those 5 values which it got, it is showing it as covered. Okay.
Okay, and they were random, like randomly just
Random.
covered. That's it. It's not
See,
in a particular.
so now you can see that the coverage is very less. This just is 7.81%, right? So if I ask you, Sudha, how you reach this coverage up to 100%, what will be your thought? How will you increase the coverage percentage here?
By increasing the randomization, like
Correct.
instead of 5, we can
Yes.
increase the number.
So if I give this as 500 for suppose,
So it means that all the time, if we give the more, I mean, if the number is more, so we will get 100% coverage.
this is one scenario. It's not always like this. Okay, there could be different things. Like sometimes there could be, for example, this is a simple variable, right? So it is like this. So now if you say 100% coverage is done, because I have given 500 chances to cover the variable of address, so it is covering. So there could be some scenario you would have missed some test case at all. Means there is a feature where you have to test the bus speed. You haven't included that feature at all, and then you are trying to check the coverage. At that point, if you increase the random number, it will not generate, right? Because you haven't written a test case at all for that. So in order to catch all those holes, this functional coverage will help. So this is one scenario where you have increased your coverage to 100% this way by increasing the randomization. But if you go to the industry level, there will be n number of things which you have done most. One should be randomization, one should be feature missing, one should be something like dead code. There are so many things. Okay.
Ma'am, can you change the
One
code and
second.
move line
So,
number
ma'am,
11?
in coming classes, can you show some test cases, like how we have to develop those test cases to know,
So the test
like what are exactly?
we can't, because this is a 10 days workshop, right? So in this we will cover only the how you will develop a coverage model and all. If possible, I will let you know. But for
Just one or two, that's it,
we'll
just
have
for idea.
the practical knowledge. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like just to know how we have to write test case to verify, just like one or two for
Yes.
the reference.
Yes. Yes. We can try if the time.
I guess we need to join the meeting.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Can you change the code and move line number 11 and move it in line number